back, 6:42. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. If you're feeling a bit chilly this morning, Bet from Dorset says, put your feet on a hot water bottle and you'll be nice and toasty in a very short while.
Yeah, it's feet and head. You lose your heat through your feet and through your head.
I mean, that just sounds very nice, doesn't it, to put your feet on a hot water bottle?
Willy hat in a hot water bottle.
Oh, yes, thanks, Bet, for that one.
Shall we take a look at today's front pages? Let's have a look at the Telegraph, reporting that Kwasi Kwarteng has reiterated his promise to bring government spending under control.
The Times leads on the Prince of Wales's comments about online safety following the tragic suicide of schoolgirl Molly Russell.
And the Mail say, have they found Keith at last? They don't know it yet, but there seems to be evidence that they're finding evidence of Keith Bennett maybe being buried. He was one of the last victims of the Moors murderers.
58 years ago,
Can't believe it.
Isn't it? Let's hope so. Let's keep our fingers crossed and he can be laid to rest with his mum. The Daily Express says banks warn of a house price slump as many owners fear they could be forced into property sales. Mind you, that'd be as a homeowner, I don't want my house price to slump. However, if you're trying to get on the property ladder...
Yeah, is that the time to do it?
It's what you want to see, isn't it? I mean, it's swings and roundabouts.
Well, it always is with the housing market. It depends whether you're a buyer or a seller, doesn't it?
Yeah. Let's go through the papers then in a bit more detail with former Deputy Research Director from Free Speech Union, Emma Webb, and broadcaster Pete Price. Morning to see you both.
Morning.
Yeah,
You've reviewed the papers already now.
I can't get my words out. I'm making no sense at all.
No, we haven't.
No.
Because you're
getting new shelves in the garage.
I'm getting new shelves in the garage today.
You're going to give us your pithy insights.
Pardon?
Yeah, no pressure.
It's too bawdy for this time.
Emma, let's start with you. She's in the Times, looking at the Prince of Wales.
So Prince William has commented on this ruling relating to the young girl Molly Russell, who sadly committed suicide after going down a sort of rabbit hole on social media of posts advocating for suicide, self-harm, and relating to depression. And he's come out and said, expressed his sort of support for the family and said that more needs to be done to deal with this issue online, with online safety.
It's the algorithms, isn't it, that follow you? It's the fact that, by the look of it, Molly was looking at various sites because she was already suffering from depression. And then she got bombarded by these algorithms showing her more websites to go to and more online stuff that, frankly, as the coroner said, no child should have to look at.
So what happens is that when you look at a certain post, the algorithm basically keeps suggesting to you more of the same content and possibly more extreme versions of the same content. And so it seems that in that way she's been really led down a kind of, like I say, a rabbit hole. According to the papers today, of the 16,000 pieces of content that she looked at on Instagram, 2,100 of them related to suicide, self-harm and depression. She was also looking at similar material on Pinterest. And now this also plays importantly into a discussion around legislation that is imminent relating to the online harms bill. That has in it safeguards for children, putting duties onto social media companies to deal with it. But what it also involves is an entirely sort of related but separate discussion around material that has been described as legal but harmful with respect to adults. And so this is a very, very complicated discussion. There are many aspects of that online harms bill that are extremely concerning and actually are a threat to free speech. And so I think what's important is, firstly, that Prince William should be aware of that he doesn't get himself tangled in the same way that that Charles had done in very political discussions. Obviously, he's not intending to do so. I think it's very important to emphasise that safeguarding children online needs to be very, very distinct from anything that may have impacts on free speech. There should be no safeguards in terms of legal but harmful material when it comes to adults.
Interesting you say free speech. What is free speech anymore? Because of 40, 50 years on radio, of late night radio, I've had children begging for help at what they've seen on social media. And I've reported stuff about me that's been vile, and they've said, no, there's no case to answer. They have lost sight, the bosses have lost sight of what's going on. No algorithms should lead you to anything like that, you know, and it's clear that she's been led along with these awful things. And how can they justify having any of these out there?
Because they're not trained publishers. That's what annoys me.
Yeah,
when you
thank
go
you.
into
Thank you.
journalism,
Yep.
you have to be trained.
Yep.
And you're trained about the social responsibility
Yep.
of everything you say and print. Even though you might not agree with it, you're trained about the social responsibility of that. These people who set up websites, they don't know that.
They
I'm not
actually
interested.
train.
Money. That's all
It's on the
Out of control.
on the front page of the Times today as well. It says that it was only actually in 2019, in response to the Molly Russell campaign, that they started removing self-harm and suicide material.
Yeah.
Okay. Pete, let's have a look at the Mail. Keith Bennett. And let's hope.
It is.
The story is everywhere. The Moors murder. I'm shocked at this because I didn't know they were still digging. I didn't know they were still looking. So I'm delighted they're still looking.
Well, it's only this one man who's
Yeah.
been looking.
It's been remarkable, and it's, as you said before, Stephen, 58 years. It's everywhere, this. I lived through it. A lot of people out there, youngsters, will not even know about it. It was one of the most dreadful, heinous crimes on this earth. The tapes of the children.
I know. It's just
And I
terrible.
interviewed Winnie Johnson.
Yeah, we
Keith's
all three
mother.
did. We did. You're
I
young.
have never,
But we did.
I fought the tears back. She was fighting the cancer. She was fighting the pain. And she was the most tormented human being
How
I'd ever
could she
met.
not be?
No. Unbelievable.
And the worst thing was that, well, it wasn't worse, but I mean, it was awful for all of the victims and those families. But Winnie Bennett never knew what happened. She never knew where her son's body was. And they never told her. In fact, they clearly led her along.
Well, he played games. He was out all the time on the moors because that was a day out for him. They were both manipulating evil, wicked people. And I just hope that it is Keith, and I hope he can be laid to rest by his mum.
So do I.
Yeah.
I quite agree with you. I think everybody got. I was very upset when I heard about it yesterday because it hits you. Anybody,
She's in my head now.
Yeah, me too.
I'll never forget every word. I lived on every word of her interview. The pain was dreadful.
Awful. There's very few crimes in this country, I think, that you can really point at and say, that is just evil.
Yeah.
Pure evil. But that, I'm afraid, falls into it.
I do hope it's him.
Yes,
The
let's
police
hope
seem
so.
to be taking it very seriously.
Yeah.
And they've got all sorts of independent forensics working on it, who say, at the moment, they're saying it does appear to be a child. It does appear to be a human body that's there. They're not saying any more at the moment. They're doing DNA tests.
And do you know what? When I was gigging around the country and going up and down to Leeds and everywhere, every time I went past the moors, it was haunting, and is still haunting, that human beings can do that to other human beings.
Unbelievable.
Look, we need to leave it there. Emma, Pete, thank you both very much indeed.